aligned to the will of God. And being aligned to the will of God, we have to understand our will must be supplanted by the will of God. That is why even when Jesus said, nevertheless, not my will. So that tells you in humanity, there is a will. He said, but let thy will. So the will of God must surpass the will of humanity. Because humanity never created God, but God created humanity. So when this concept is understood, then we have to know that man is subject to God's authority, ordinance, and power, not God's subject of ordinances and power of man. So here it says, say in the 10th day of this month, the first month, to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. Now when we go to the 4th verse, which is going to bring us to the 5th verse, explaining detail, and I said, and if the household be too little for a lamb, that means if the number in a house are not able to purchase a lamb, so they can come together with their neighbor, the next door neighbor, so that they can consent together and say, okay, you know what? I cannot be able to buy a lamb, or I don't have the ability to buy a lamb, but let's team up together. Then we buy a lamb. And then the lamb will be slaughtered and the portion will be divided according to the number that is in each house. So now it says, let him want us to stick for some moments while we're reading that. In that verse 5. In verse 5 it says, your lamb shall be without blemish. Male lamb should be without blemish. Let me try to give you an understanding of this word blemish. With defect, this lamb, the lamb should have no fault. And if the lamb is to get no fault, what are we looking at this lamb to be? Again, the lamb shouldn't be the second born. The lamb should be the last born. The lamb should be the firstborn. See, the firstborn, the male factor. So in Leviticus, which is the book of the law, chapter number 22, let's read from verse 18. Sorry, let's take it from verse 17 to 21. So from verse 17, let's read from the New King James Version, NKJV. If you have it, that'll be fine. If you don't have it, then I'll help you here. And it said, and the Lord spake to Moses, saying, speak to them, whatever man of the house of Israel, or any of his free will offerings, which they offer to the Lord as a burnt offering, you shall offer of your own free will a male without blemish. From the has a defect, you shall guilt offering, okay, trespass offering, all of this. So it says, if you are to offer an offering to me freely, animal is having something of maybe a sore or a bleeding, or that animal is probably strangled by another animal or falls down and maybe has a spleen on the leg or whatever, you shouldn't offer it. That's the word defect. It has a fault. Why is God bringing this? Why? Remember, he is the creator of all things. And he's not telling Moses at the initial times While in this book of Leviticus now, Israel has moved from Egypt, but I'll come back to that. Free will, not under compulsion. Not by bringing this and bringing that to make sure that they get something from the people. No, freely. In other words, when you experience a guilt, when you experience a fault, when you experience a trauma or a torment whereby you realize, I'm not at peace. So you have to come to the Lord to present a sacrifice to be able to get peace. To who? Not to man first. Yet